Welcome back to A Life Worth Living, a place for real and raw conversations with people from all different walks of life. In a world with social media where people's best lives are on display, we all need refreshing reminders that no one is perfect and you are not alone. This is where you hear the greatest life lessons from the most incredible life stories. A daily reminder of how beautiful this life is and how life is truly worth living. On today's episode, we have Quigley here. Quigley is a professional content creator, visual storyteller, and educator. Quigley has traveled all over the world and has accomplished a successful career empowering women through creativity, boldness, and vulnerability. In today's episode, we talk about finding confidence and how letting our own light shine allows other people to do the same. Quigley, thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited for our conversation today. Let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to have us start off with how we met.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like we know each other even though we don't really know each other.
I know. We met over Instagram, so we've never met in person.
Right.
But I'm so glad that we came in contact because it's just been so fun following you.
Thank you. And likewise. And I feel like we've both had a lot of arcs to our stories since we first started chatting.
Yeah, I feel like we've both had our journeys and it's just been really cool to see all the ups, all the downs. And you are very similar to me. I feel like you just are so raw. You share the real moments on your social media, and a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing that. And so I love it. I just love when people are willing, and you are totally down for that. So I just love it. So I've been able to kind of go through that with you in different ways and be able to kind of see it. And it's been really special.
I feel like you've blossomed lately. You're really on an amazing trajectory, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. That's so sweet. Well, same to you. And I'm so excited to catch up and hear all that you're doing. And what's so fun about your journey was that you were on American Idol.
Yes.
Which is crazy and such a cool experience. I know that a lot of people are probably interested in that. And so I'd love to hear more about your experience. How was that for you?
Absolutely. So I went on the show when I was really young. It was almost half my lifetime ago, which is just crazy to think about it that way.
That's crazy.
It was 2008 when I went on the show.
Wow.
I was a little baby. And so it does feel like a totally different lifetime ago. I feel like a different person. But growing up in Minnesota, it was my dream to become a musician. I loved singing and I loved performing, and I did a lot of musical theater as a kid. And so I had no connection to the music industry at all. It wasn't like my parents could help me out in any way, shape, or form. So in my head, the easiest way to get into the music industry was to go on television, which now in hindsight just sounds kind of laughable.
It's common. I mean, it's a great way for publicity. I've got other friends that were on American Idol and different shows, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's you learn from it.
Oh, I learned a lot. And I wish I could unlearn some of those things, but c'est la vie, we are here. And we, honestly, I say that with a bit of humor because I wouldn't change a thing, because I'm very happy to, with where it led me. It led me to a lot of big aha moments with my identity, and eventually pushed me into the world of social media, where I ended up building my business and my brand, and actually applied the degree that I had from back at the University of Minnesota, which was journalism. And I actually think that social media these days is the new way of sharing information. It's the new mass communication method that everybody uses. So
yeah.
It's so funny, when I went to college for journalism, social media wasn't a thing. We were prepping to become broadcast journalists. And now it's you can have your own media channel and broadcast what you want.
Yeah, which has been so incredible seeing you really hone in on that on social media. So tell us more about kind of where you have come from in your brand and what you've been doing on social media, because you've had a lot of different stuff.
What happened is after American Idol, I moved to LA, and I decided that I was going to be the next Katy Perry. So I went hard because there's nothing, you don't learn anything about music from being on the show. And when I was on American Idol, people didn't get social media followings because it didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
So we basically had no, like I didn't, a lot of people now, it's like, great, they go on the show, they get exposure. I didn't have that at all. I didn't have anybody holding my hand when I was done with the show saying, here's what you should do next. You get chewed up and spit out.
Yeah.
So I was like, what do I do? Luckily, I have some relatives that live out in California, and they were like, you can come stay with us for a little bit and see if you want to move out here. And I met with some music managers, and I didn't really have a solid plan, but I decided to pack my bags and move.
Yeah.
So I was out here for a little bit writing songs and working with different producers, and I even got a music manager, and I started very quickly to realize how sexist the industry was. And I really didn't love the fact that in order for me to make my art, I had to go basically kiss the ass of a bunch of men.
Wow.
Because you really like you're put, into these rooms over and over and over again.
Yeah.
With producers and writers, which sometimes they're women, but it was so rare.
Yeah.
And the producer was always a man. And you're supposed to write these like intimate songs and share your heart and spend hours working on music. And so I had so many scenarios where those people would misinterpret my bigness and my big confident energy for me wanting to sleep with them.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I hate that. I hate that you had to go through that. And I hate that it's even a thing.
I didn't feel like I could be my biggest self without the threat of them misinterpreting it.
Oh my gosh. Especially when you're in the middle of finding your identity and you've got the pressure already around you as far as like who you should be and like what your appearance should be and how like to be like the PR side of it, like how to be able to like be successful and change the way you look or change the way you are to be able to like find that. And having that already there in that industry, and then now also having, different men just wanting to push you to have these almost like different intentions than what you have. Like your intentions are not anywhere close to what they're maybe misinterpreting or wanting. And it's just, I feel like that there's so many different industries where that is a thing. And it's sickening, and I think it's gotten better through time, but it's like nowhere close to where it should be. And it just breaks my heart that you had to experience that.
Yeah, and what happened with me on American Idol, I was also hypersexualized in a way that I did not want at all. When I was on the show,
wow,
media dug up a bunch of bikini photos that I had done, and that was just like my narrative. It all of a sudden was like, gosh. Oh my gosh, I found photos that she took for a bikini calendar. She's so slutty, and like she, you know what I mean? Like,
oh my gosh,
it was like, really, that's what we're going to talk about, my body. And the judges were all completely okay with talking about mentioning everything about my appearance before they said anything about my voice. And
my gosh,
it really made me leave the show going, I can't look pretty. If I show my body too much, it's going to make it about that.
Distract, from what's really important.
Right. And it was like, it's almost subconsciously, I told myself I needed to be smaller so that people didn't look at me.
Wow.
And I spent a lot of my time in my 20s, like not wearing makeup, not wearing dresses, like literally like reverting back into this like tomboy thing. And it really confused my identity, because up until that point in my life, I would consider myself to be very confident and feminine. And I just like reverted to this small version of myself.
Wow. I can kind of relate to that in some ways. 'Cause growing up, I was told, I guess like, so girls and women have always intimidated me. I grew up with all brothers. And so I could talk all day with guys, and I will be like, I can become like such good friends with guys, given I have to like navigate all that too with like the intentions and yeah. But I definitely feel more comfortable and confident when it comes to not being judged necessarily in the ways that girls might, judge me. And so growing up, even since I was like really little, I had issues with girls like comparing themselves to me, it's weird to talk about. Every single person has something special about them. And so for me, I was just like, why are you, so worried about somebody else? Like, why are you so worried about me? I ended up being kind of like taught that in order for me to be liked, I had to dim myself a little bit. And so in every situation, like in dance and sports and just like what I would wear, I was told like, if you wear makeup, then you're going to make other people feel bad about themselves. Like, and if you dress a certain way, you're going to make other people feel bad about themselves. Maybe just tone it down a little bit because you're so talented and you're so good at whatever, XYZ or whatever. And it'll discourage these other people because, they're going to compare themselves to you, and you're going to want to, be friends with them. You want to help lift them, and they're not going to feel like that if you be yourself. And it created a limiting belief, which I'm sure what you kind of experienced. And I held that for a long time. I had this whole like journey of discovering myself and self-love and confidence. And I started wearing more colorful clothes. I started wearing heels. I started, wearing makeup. And then I also was like totally fine not wearing makeup. And I learned that as you let your own light shine, you give permission to others to do the same. And that's something that I feel like you are just so good at. You exemplify that. And I want to hear more how you transitioned out of those limiting beliefs, because you are a fashion queen and like you encourage everyone to just be like bold and be themselves and like not care about what other people think. And so how did you transition from, having to have those limiting beliefs as far as like taking down what you feel like is true to yourself and your authentic self, and then transitioning into who you are today?
Yeah. So I was in this place where my limiting belief was, in order for me to succeed in the music industry, I have to sell out my body. It was very clear that the universe was telling me that that's what mattered for me, right? Mm-hmm. Like that if I wanted big things, if I wanted attention from the media, if I wanted the right producers, it was sell out your body and just be okay with that. And I didn't get behind it. And I ended up getting into a relationship with one of the producers.
Oh, wow.
It was a very, very complex relationship. And it was really dangerous because I really ended up loving him very deeply, and it became emotionally abusive.
No.
And we got engaged.
Really?
After 4 months of knowing each other, which was a red flag, but
I did not know that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was so head over heels that I said yes. And we ended up living together and touring together. We went on a tour with the band Erasure, which was a dream of mine. We were playing sold out stadiums, and it was wonderful.
Wow.
But yeah, there would be times where he wouldn't like what I was wearing. And he would tell me and basically drunkenly blow up at me about the length of my shorts. And he would get into fights with me, and he would threaten to take the diamond back and say, like, how dare you do XYZ, because I pay for your bills, I pay for our rent, I put a diamond on your finger. And it got really messy. And I had started seeing a therapist behind his back because he wouldn't agree to see a therapist with me. And eventually got the strength to leave that relationship. And that's kind of when the new Rebirth Quigley came out, because leaving him was really, really hard. And but at the same time, he gave something to me that I will always be thankful for. And that is he taught me how to produce music.
Oh, that's awesome.
I spent so many hours in the studio with him, shadowing him and learning from him. And he is brilliant and sadly very emotionally damaged. And I couldn't, to save myself, I needed to leave that relationship.
Yeah. I'm glad you did, because that's really difficult whenever, one, you love that person so deeply, and also like your lives really aligned, you know, your careers, you've got passion and dreams, and having someone who understands that and not only understands it but supports it all the way is just like such a blessing. And I feel like you found that now and in so many different ways, but I can imagine that that's just so hard because, you know, and any emotionally abusive or any type of abusive relationship is already hard to get out of. Yeah. So I'm just so glad that you were able to work through that, because the Quigley that you blossomed into and became, and it's interesting that happens, I feel like, very often and commonly after some sort of breakup. It's almost like the positive that comes out of the negative in some ways, you know, if you choose for it to happen.
Oh, absolutely. And so I ended up leaving the music industry. I gave myself like a hard, I'm not doing this anymore, like shut the laptop, packed everything up, like I'm not doing this anymore situation. And I gave myself, and at this time I had already been on social media, sort of like making press materials for my music. I'd like meet up with photographers and we'd take photos like, okay, we can use this to promote this EP or use this to, you know, send out to PR when we launch this single. Mm-hmm. So I'd already been making stuff and putting it on social media. And in doing so and collaborating with different photographers, my following started to grow on Instagram. And so I will never forget, my mom told me like, hey, did you know that like people make money on social media? Like there are these bloggers, they do fashion and they make $500,000 a year. Like you could do this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I can. Maybe I'll start a fashion. So I did. That was in 2016 or 17. I can't remember, one of the two. And I just, in January, at the beginning of the year, I was like, I'm going to spend this whole year, like, this is what I'm doing. I was working at a bar. I got a job as a bartender, and then I was doing bottle service, and that was paying the bills. While during the week, during the day, I was just doing all sorts of photo shoots with every photographer I could meet up with and convince to do a shoot.
And your content, oh my gosh, like incredible. Your creativity was just like through the roof. You were like a full-blown professional model. You were self-taught and you were just like, I'm doing this. Would you say that it helped you embrace yourself even more because you're jumping into this world of just complete boldness and like wearing what you're going to wear and putting it out for people to see, not caring, and like finding that version of you? What do you think it helped you embrace it more by like getting in front of the camera and doing that line of work?
Yeah, it definitely brought out that confidence. And I think part of that was just knowing that I was pivoting away from a male-dominated industry and into a female-dominated industry. Mm-hmm. And because to me, fashion, my mom was a fashion major in college. She's like, it's just sort of like it going back to the roots of like why I loved fashion was playing dress up, you know, as a kid. And it was just this side of me that didn't have to be as judged as the music industry side. And so it felt like I had the freedom to be creative in a different way that wasn't as restricting. And fashion to me was easy. It was like this visual art that was easy, and it was totally separate from this thing that caused me so much pain. Yeah. And so it was very easy for me to pour myself into it and create as much as I wanted because there wasn't the same pressure that I put on myself. And I didn't really definitely at first, I did not think I was going to do it professionally or to make money. I was just like, I'm doing this for fun. Mm-hmm. And then it evolved into like, oh, okay, brands are actually sending me messages saying that they would want to pay me to post about stuff. Yeah. That's when I was, okay, I actually could go and do this.
Yeah. I remember you kind of transitioning a little bit with your content Which I've loved, even though I just am so obsessed with your fashion, like your creativity, fashion photo shoots, like all of that. I love being able to see your personality come out in videos. And now that social media is like going more towards videos, it's been so fun. You and your husband, like you guys are just hilarious. Like I laugh all the time with your content and it always just brightens my day. And I just love that you guys put out that kind of stuff. And then now you have a sweet, cute little baby. So you started a family and that's even like now you're doing a lot of mom stuff. How has that been transitioning into like video and kind of showcasing your personality a little bit more?
Well, honestly, it's been kind of a shit show. Like, I'm not going to lie. It's been a shit show. Because for me, like the creative process of coming up with shoots and putting outfits together and dreaming up like crazy trips where we go to Bali and we shoot like, you know, in this epic location, that to me is like what gets me so excited and just I cheese out to that and I just love it.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's just like fashion and travel. Like who does not obsess over that?
Yeah.
But there was an arc where I had to realize that for me, that was me serving me. Right. And if you're a business owner of any kind, you know that your business has to serve your audience and for me, I was like, oh my God, I'm running this business and I'm thinking all about what I want to do versus what really resonates with people. And that's when I sort of made that transition of, okay, I'm going to pull back the curtain and show people the behind the scenes and what I'm really feeling and what I'm really thinking and what really goes into these photo shoots and the raw and the real moments of battling anxiety and depression, which we can talk a little bit more about.
Totally.
That I was feeling at the peak of my career. And I'll say like the pandemic changed everything for everyone. And it's not just the fact that I became a mom, but like content shifted, right? Because no one was traveling. People didn't have an excuse or need to get dressed up. And so I think a lot of the creators, myself included, just really had to shift their strategies. And so it was really uncomfortable leaning into something new. And at first I just like floundered a lot and I shared, I mean, there was no plan. It was just like whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. There was no plan. And it just looks like in hindsight, a total hodgepodge of stuff. But my husband's really funny. So I think we need the comedic side of things because that's just what he does best. But it didn't feel as like intuitive to me. I'm still kind of working through that on how do we incorporate that and still maintain the artistic side of things that really makes me
fulfilled. I feel like it's one of your outlets. I think it's something that you just like love. It makes you happy. And I feel like that whenever you figure that out, you don't want to lose it, especially within different like phases of life, you know? And I think a lot of times moms will realize, like just any stay-at-home mom can probably relate to that, where they're like, man, you know, I used to love doing this and now I don't do it anymore, you know? And so I think a lot of people can relate to that in different ways. But I've remembered you sharing on social media where you're like, I want to provide more value for you guys. And you're having that realization. And I think it was during the pandemic when that first started. And I remember you sharing that and you're just like, and you were like emotional about it. And you're like, I just want to give more and I want to provide more. And I just thought that was so incredible. I was like, this is something that I hope a lot of people are able to have, that paradigm shift where they see that they have value to offer. Maybe they don't know what that is quite yet, but they want that, and creating some sort of impact in the world in a more in-depth way. I think you brought up recently too, where you were kind of wanting to figure out the path you're wanting to take right now. You're starting up doing music again. I know that that's been difficult. And how has your mental health been throughout this process? Like, I know that finding identity, finding purpose in life is hard. And there's all these ups and downs. And when you already struggle with anxiety and depression, it makes it really hard. And so what does that look like for you, your mental health journey through all of this?
So before the pandemic, My answer to the how do I provide value was in the form of education, because I come from a long line of teachers. My mom and both my grandmas were teachers. And so I put out some online resources and an online class and started the social media, which is our educational side of our business. And that was really fulfilling for me, like extremely fulfilling. And I felt so happy seeing the results of it. But as I got pregnant and as I became a mom, that side of the business, just I couldn't keep up with it. And
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it really was. And social media changes so fast that you really have to stay on top of trends if you want to teach people, how to do it. And I just didn't have the time to invest in that. And so I think my TikTok seminar was like right when TikTok came out, I did a TikTok seminar. And then after that, I just fell off because I was 8 months pregnant. So
yeah, you're like,
at that time I was like, if I'm not teaching people, how do I provide value? And I had to sort of remind myself that it's okay to provide value in the form of entertainment.
Yeah.
Okay to provide value just in the form of being vulnerable so that other people can relate to you and feel a little less alone.
Yeah.
So I decided that, okay, as I'm going through this chapter of my life where I'm a mom and I am learning what it's like to, take care of a human and keep someone alive, I'm just going to show every step of the way and be as vulnerable as I can and ask for help. And that was really beautiful because it created this nice new community of moms that I connected with.
Yeah. And so many women, especially mothers, need that because there's so much pressure to be perfect and, especially through social media. So people like you who are willing to share that side of things bless so many lives. So I'm grateful that you're willing to do that.
Okay. I forgot to answer your question. And that was about music. After the sort of trauma of what I went through with my identity in music, I was like, goodbye. And I slammed the door shut. And since then, I've been starving myself of it, literal starving. I don't listen to the kind of music I love as much as I used to. I don't sing as much as I used to. And I don't, I don't make it. And at the beginning of this year, I was thinking of all of the things I wanted to do this year. And one of them was start a clothing line. And one of them was
that would be amazing.
And one of them was do something else. Here I am being a mom, focusing on mom stuff, but I felt like this part of me was missing because I had been ignoring music for so long. But from a business standpoint, I started out this year thinking what am I going to do to move the business along? How are we going to jump back into things? What projects do we want to start? And I thought about all these different ideas and music wasn't on there. So that kind of made me think okay, if I wrote a book, would it really make me money? If I started a clothing line, would it really make me money? And all the answers were kind of, who knows?
Yeah.
If who knows to those, then what, the main reason why I'm not thinking about making music is because I'm well, I don't want to tour. I don't think of myself as wanting to make money as a musician. But at this point in my career, I'm a content creator. And people are on social media, they follow me because I'm making content. So why can't the content that I'm making be music related?
I love it.
I make the rules. I make the rules to this. This is it's essentially social media is I'm broadcasting my life. I'm hosting my own reality television show. So why can't it be about me trying to be a pop star?
Yes, which you already are. So it's not even going to be difficult to do because you are literally a queen, in every aspect.
Thank you. And for me, it's when I say I'm going to be a pop star this year, it doesn't really have much to do with singing because to be really fair with you, I think I'm a mediocre singer. What I want more than anything is for people to see me open the heart doors and say to anyone who thinks that I can't be the biggest, baddest version of myself right now.
Yes.
I'm 33. I'm a mom and I'm going to this is not a maybe. This is I am going to make baller music and be a pop star. And that's that, period.
Yep. I love it. As a mom, as a woman, that alone, doing that in your 30s after you've already kind of had a different career and you're like, you know what? This is me and I'm going to be me. And that's incredible.
And I want to point out that it's not about the end goal. Like whether or not I get, fame or stardom, that's what you associate with the word pop star. It's not about achieving, and it's not about, the accolades that come with it. For me, it's really about saying, in my heart of hearts, when I'm 80 and I look back on my 30s, what would I tell myself?
Yeah.
And I tell myself, like, give it your all, because you love music and you're really good at making it. I really hope that it inspires other women to go out there and learn production and make their own music. My generation, if you were a little girl and you liked to sing, they would say, here's a tutu, learn ballet. Or like, here's, why don't you go into musical theater? Or like take voice lessons. They don't hand you, a laptop and say, go learn production. But I think that times are changing now, and I'm excited to see how the music industry really evolves with more female producers.
Wow. That's incredible.
And I'm hoping
so inspiring.
to be at the helm of that.
Yes. Yeah. I really foresee you doing that. I really do. That's incredible. Well, so something that I love about having these conversations is, and I really love pulling people in who are willing to be vulnerable and willing to be raw, and you already have been. It's so special to be able to have somebody like you who we can have conversations with like this, because honestly, it's not just a conversation between me and you, and I'm not the only one that's learning from you right now and being inspired by you and empowered by you, but everyone listening is. And so my favorite part of these conversations I get to have is the uncensored Q&A. And that's where we just talk about, you're like, I'm all for it, which I love. And, that's where I love to just ask, what is something, and I know we've already talked about, some ups and downs that you've already gone through, but what is something that you have gone through in your life, anytime in your life, that was really difficult or hard or painful? And what did you learn from that?
Let's see, how do we even start? I'll tell you this. In 2019, my niece was born, and oh my gosh, the most incredible thing, I was able to witness her birth. And Thank God my sister let me in there, because being present for someone else's birth makes it so much exponentially. Like, this is a whole different conversation. But like, if you want to be a mom and you listen to this podcast, see if you have someone that you can just sit in on their birth for. But it was so valuable to be able to see that process before I did it myself.
Really?
Like broadcast my entire birth publicly, just so that like other women could see.
Wow.
Maybe a next birth, that's what will happen.
Oh my gosh. You out of anyone.
Sitting out a baby. Had to make the headlines.
Oh my, it really would.
My sister had her baby, and that was like life-changing just to be there to witness that. And Margaret was born in September, and about a month later, she was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. That, if you don't know about CF, is it's a very it's something that is a genetic thing, so that once you have it, like, it doesn't get cured. And back about maybe 40 years ago, if you had cystic fibrosis, it was like a life sentence. You probably only live to be 15. And it affects mostly the lungs. And we've learned a lot about CF since Margaret was diagnosed. And she very, very lucky that she got diagnosed early, because they've been able to give her incredible care. And now there's a new drug coming out called Trikafta that she's going to be able to take, and it will really minimize a lot of her treatment. But when she was first diagnosed, it was extremely traumatizing for my sister. And I flew down the day that it happened, I flew up to Oakland, and we were scared out of our minds because, the first thing that you do when you have a diagnosis like that is you read on the internet all these things. And my sister was so terrified, and, we cried and a lot, but at the end of the day, we rallied, and it made us closer as a family. And everybody learned about CF. And I think at first we viewed it as something that was bad, like this terrible thing that happened. And then as Margaret got to be older and, you know, she grew into the beautiful little girl that she is, we've seen her blossom and become our teacher. And it's this really incredible thing to see resilience play out in that way. And she is like this beacon of hope and strength for us in a way that we've never had it before. And so, yeah, that was a very long-winded story, but
no, not at all.
And yeah, it just makes me believe that, you know, if my sister can get through that with the strength and grace that she has, like, I feel like I could tackle a lot of hard things in my life.
Wow. That's amazing that you were able to be there with her through that. And I can't even imagine. That's just so scary and so hard, especially when it's something that you kind of have to dive into, like the unknown. Like, you know, we don't always know all the details and how stuff like works and different diseases. And when you hear something like that and you're just like, oh my gosh, and you already kind of know a little bit, and then you're like, I need to learn all this stuff about it because it's just so terrifying. That can be just so hard and overwhelming. And I love how you said that she's become this like beacon of light and hope. And, you know, initially you were kind of thinking it was this terrible thing. And I think that that's another reason why that's a big part of the foundation of this podcast is just turning negatives into positives is so empowering and incredible because we can't control the decisions of other people. We can't control if, you know, somebody's health and if somebody's diagnosed with something that, you know, that's just, it is what it is. And we can do all that we can that is in our control, but, you know, there's only so much. And I think that a lot of people can get consumed with trying to, you know, control things that we can't control. And it takes so much of our energy. It's incredible when we're able to take these experiences that are so hard and we're able to not only learn from them, but it ends up being something that is an opportunity for growth. And, you know, it's a continuous thing. And we're not always like 100% afterwards. And even after we do find the positive in it, like it's a process. But yeah. I love that you were able to find that in that specific experience. And you've done that a lot in your life. And I think that other people who are struggling with I always pronounce it wrong, cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So I just feel like that a lot of people out there who do struggle with that or anything, it can be really hard to stay positive. And yeah. I mean, you know, as she grows up, it's going to be like something that she has to continually work through. And, you know, it's incredible that she gets to have people like you and her mom, especially just strong women in her life who are able to be there for her through it.
And it's actually very weird because cystic fibrosis affects mainly the lungs and the mucus in the lungs. And so any kind of illness that you could potentially get to that can infect your lungs basically can create permanent lung damage. So love that she was born right before COVID.
Yeah.
But good news is that if you focus on the positive, right, she has been able to grow up. It's been sort of a bubble. She's been sort of a bubble baby. But that being said, she's growing up where people are now more conscious than they've ever been before of washing their hands and not coughing on people. And so her generation is going to grow up with totally different protocols for what to do when you're not feeling good. So yeah, we're like, actually, this is really positive, and it can mean a lot for the CF community.
Wow. Yeah, it's so true. And I know that it's been scary for people who have any type of illness that can get significantly worse or fatal with the different variants of COVID that are happening. And so I think that's a really great way to look at it. I'm so grateful you were willing to share that with me and with us, because I know that, you know, and everything you've shared has been so amazing. I want to ask, because you have gone through your journey of finding your identity and your purpose and all those things. I want to ask, what advice would you give to those who are kind of in that phase of life right now where they're trying to find their purpose in life? They're trying to find their own identity and really establish that in themselves. What would you say to them?
What I would say is probably you got to get the out of your own way. We are all our own worst enemy. in a lot of things because we stop ourselves by prejudging scenarios before we even try. One of my favorite quotes is start before you are ready. Start with your hands trembling. Start with your breath like start because no one's going to criticize you the way that you criticize yourself. Like, just don't be the one to say no to yourself. Let other people do it. You know, your body knows the way forward. We just fight ourselves on it all the time. So if you get really still and you listen to what your heart says and you get really still and you try and this is why meditation is such an amazing thing, and you try and block out the mental dialogue that is causing chaos and anxiety in your brain, and you just listen to your heart, you know the answer and you know the way forward. And generally, it's towards the thing that scares the shit out of you.
Yeah. We're not designed to be comfortable. I've been going through that myself right now as I'm like, I just got married. I'm so happy. Life is great. And I'm like, man, I'm so comfortable. I don't want to do anything to go out of my comfort zone, which before I was like bringing it all in. I was like embracing the uncomfortable. And I think that when we get to that point where we can do that, oh my gosh, life becomes so much more fulfilling. Like it is so, the difference is night and day. And I mean, I just heard a quote where it was like, you know, when you do what's hard, it makes life easy. Like even going to the gym and pushing yourself to get out of your comfort zone in all these different ways. In the end, it makes life easier because you are growing, you're feeling fulfilled, you're not stagnant. And that's something that we're literally designed for. We're designed to overcome all of these different obstacles and be able to grow. I always like to say like a heartbeat. You watch a heartbeat and there's all these like ups and downs, right? And that's just how life is. Like you're supposed to have that. If you're just stagnant, that's not living.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that that's just, I love that insight. I love that advice. It's so important to be able to realize I can get out of my own way, and being uncomfortable is not only okay, but it's incredible. And when you view it that way, you're able to go through anything to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you. Okay, well, the one thing I like to ask, what to you, because everyone's different, and I love the insight from everyone, what to you makes life worth living?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. Once you become a mom, that is like the answer will always be my baby. Like, I know that's just so simple, but like when I met Max, oh my God, I was like, this is the fucking point of life.
Oh,
That this is why I'm here. To experience this love.
wow.
So yeah, it's a simple answer, but it's honest.
It's the opportunity to experience a deep, deep sense of unconditional love for someone and something, and you get to have that on such a divine, special, deep level. And I feel like that just, it amplifies this life. Like
it is bonkers, dude. It's wonderful.
Oh, I'm so excited to be able to experience that. It's going to be so fun.
Roller coaster, buckle your seatbelt.
Yeah. You're incredible, Quigley. I loved being able to catch up with you and talk. And this conversation was so amazing. I know it's going to bless so many lives. And we got to keep up to date with each other. I want to be able to talk more because this year I feel like is going to be a big year for you. Where can we find your music? You're on Spotify, iTunes? Where are we going to find it?
Yep, it will be on Spotify and iTunes, but like go ahead and follow me at official Quigley on TikTok and officially Quigley on Instagram.
Yes, all the different reasons to do that too, because the value in so many different ways, you just create incredible content, and your music is going to be so amazing. I'm so excited for you to be able to share it. And everyone, you've got to go and check out Quigley and everything that she's doing. I'm not going to lie, you're not going to regret following her on her channels. So enjoy. I'm glad that we were able to have you on, and I just love you to death. And so we'll get the hubby on, and we can do another conversation with both of you guys, because that would be super fun. But today was perfect, and I'm so grateful that you were able to be here.
Thanks, Britt.
Love you tons. We'll talk soon. Thanks so much for watching or listening. If you liked this episode, subscribe and follow along. If there's someone you feel like would be a good fit for the show, feel free to send me recommendations on Instagram at alifeworthliving.show. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'm grateful to have you here. And until next time, have a great week.